Hey there. If you're here right now, it might not be just because you're learning English or casually scrolling on your phone or killing time during a train ride. No, maybe, just maybe, you're looking for something deeper. Maybe you're carrying questions that nobody around you has the answers to. Questions like, what am I doing with my life? Why do I feel stuck, even when I'm trying? Is there something more waiting for me out there? I don't know who you are. Maybe you're a university student in London trying to figure out your future. Maybe you're working two part-time jobs in New York just to pay rent. Maybe you're sitting in your room somewhere in the middle of nowhere, wondering if your dreams still matter. And maybe, just maybe, this is the moment that shifts something inside you. Let's be real for a second. Life in the 2020s is exhausting. You scroll through social media and see people your age traveling the world, buying houses, starting businesses, getting married, living their best lives. And here you are, sitting on your old mattress, wondering if you'll even make it through the week. You tell yourself, I should be further by now. You tell yourself, everyone else seems to have it figured out. You tell yourself, maybe I'm just not enough. I know those thoughts. I've had them too. They can make you feel invisible, like you're walking through life with a smile on your face, but a storm in your mind. You keep showing up, but deep down you're tired. Tired of trying. Tired of failing. Tired of pretending everything's fine when it isn't. But here's something I want to tell you straight from the heart. You're not broken. You're not behind. And you're absolutely not alone. This isn't the end of your story. It's just a messy chapter. And sometimes, the most beautiful transformations come after our darkest nights. You don't need to have a 10-year plan. You don't need to have all the answers. All you need, right now, is a choice. A choice to listen. A choice to hope again. A choice to take one small step in the right direction. I know that's true, because I had to make that choice too. Let me take you back just a few years ago. I was 25, living in a cramped studio apartment in Birmingham, UK. It was winter, cold, gray. Everything felt heavier than it should have. I had just lost my third job in under a year. Not because I was lazy. Not because I wasn't trying. I was showing up. I just wasn't thriving. I remember one afternoon in particular. It was raining, of course. It always rains in England. I had just come back from another job interview that didn't go well. I sat at the kitchen table, a half-eaten bowl of cereal in front of me, bills scattered like fallen leaves. My phone buzzed with another rejection email. I stared at the screen for a long time, heart pounding, then placed it face down. And then silence. No tears. No anger. Just silence. The kind of silence that creeps in when you're too tired to be sad, too numb to be afraid. I looked around my apartment. The chipped wallpaper. The broken heater. The clutter of books I said I'd read, but never did. I felt like my whole life was stuck on pause, except the world around me kept moving forward without me. I wanted to scream, why is this so hard? But nobody was there to answer. For weeks, I drifted. Wake up, eat whatever was cheapest, scroll endlessly through job listings, sleep, repeat. I felt invisible, unnecessary, like I had nothing of value to offer the world. But then, something small changed. It wasn't a big, dramatic moment. It wasn't some movie-style turning point. It was a message. An old friend from university texted me, out of nowhere. He said, hey man, just checking in. Haven't heard from you. How are you holding up? That message felt like a hand reaching into the dark and pulling me back into the light. I didn't reply right away, but for the first time in weeks, I felt something stir inside me, like the faint memory of hope. That same night, I opened my laptop and searched how to get your life back on track. Not very original, I know, but it led me to a short video, just 5 minutes long. It wasn't magical. The guy wasn't famous, but he said something that shook me. Your life is your responsibility. Nobody's coming to save you. But that's not a bad thing. It means you have the power to save yourself. That hit me like a punch in the chest. I replayed that line 5, maybe 10 times. You have the power to save yourself. I don't know why it landed so hard. But that night, I made one small decision. Not a big goal. Not a 5-year plan. Just one promise. I was going to take one small, positive action every single day. That first day, I made my bed. That's it. Not a big achievement, right? But it felt like control like I had decided how that day would start. Not my fear, not my failure. The next day, I read 5 pages of a book. The next, I went for a short walk without my phone. Then I started journaling. Then I made a budget. Then I applied to 1 job a day. Not 10, just 1 with intention. Each action was small, insignificant on its own. But after a few weeks, I realized I felt different, lighter, focused, human again. I didn't magically become successful overnight. I didn't land my dream job or win a lottery. But I was moving. I was no longer frozen in fear. And here's the beautiful thing. Once you start moving forward, even just a little, life begins to meet you halfway. Doors you didn't see before start to open. People show up. Ideas come to life. Not because you're lucky, but because you finally stop standing still. You might be at your own rock bottom right now. Or maybe you're just stuck in the middle, tired of surviving, but unsure how to start living again. If so, I want to tell you what I wish someone had told me in that cold apartment years ago. It's okay to begin small, but you must begin, because from that one small step forward, everything else becomes possible. And now that you've heard my story, maybe it's time to ask, what's your reason to begin? So far, I've told you a story, my story, about hitting the bottom, then choosing to rise slowly, one step at a time. But now it's time to shift the focus to you. Because this isn't just about listening to someone else's journey. This is about beginning your own. Let me ask you a question, one that changed my life. Why do you want to change? Not how, not when, but why? Because the truth is, the how will exhaust you. The when will confuse you. But the why will keep you going when nothing else can. Everyone talks about goals, getting fit, learning English, getting a better job, making more money. Those are fine. But goals without purpose? They fade fast. That's why gym memberships skyrocket in January and disappear by March. You don't need more motivation. You need a mission. Let me share what I've learned. Your why must be bigger than your fear. If your reason for waking up early, studying harder, or building a new life isn't stronger than your fear of failure, you will quit. We all do. But when your why touches your heart deeply, something changes. Your energy shifts. Your actions become fueled by purpose instead of pressure. So what is it for you? Is it your children? The way they look at you, trusting you to lead them? Is it your parents? The sacrifices they made that still echo in your life? Is it your younger self? That dreamer inside you who still believes, still hopes? Or is it the future version of you, quietly waiting for you to step up and become them? Let me tell you something personal. My why became crystal clear the night my niece handed me a drawing she made. It was a stick figure, me standing in front of a crowd, speaking. She wrote on top in bold crayon, "Uncle Ethan is a hero. He helps people." I laughed at first, but then I cried, because I wasn't a hero. Not yet, but in her eyes, I already was. That drawing went up on my wall. It became my compass. When I wanted to sleep in, I got up. When I wanted to give up, I remembered those crayon words. That's what a why does. It makes ordinary people do extraordinary things. And here's what I believe about you. You have a powerful why too. You just need to uncover it. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture your life 5 years from now. If you changed nothing. Same habits, same job, same excuses, same struggles. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine your life 5 years from now if you start today. Imagine what would change. Who you'd help, how you'd feel. There's no wrong answer. There's only honesty. So take a deep breath. Forget what the world wants from you. Forget what social media says success looks like. Ask yourself, what do I want to create with my life? Your answer may not come right away. That's okay. Let it come when it's ready. Just keep asking. Keep listening. Keep searching. Because when you find your why, everything begins to shift. The path doesn't get easier, but you get stronger. And now, as you stand at this edge between who you are and who you could become, there's just one question left to explore. What small step will you take today to honor your why? Because that next step, that's what we'll talk about next.
There's just one question left to explore. What small step will you take today to honor your why? Because that next step, even if it seems tiny, might be the one that turns everything around. Change rarely arrives like thunder. More often, it whispers, quiet, slow, persistent. That's how my story continued, not with a big win or a lucky break, but with a quiet morning and a simple decision. I started waking up at 6 a.m., not because I suddenly became a morning person, but because I needed to feel like I was in control of at least one thing in my life. That first morning, I sat in my tiny room with nothing but silence, a cup of coffee, and an old book, Atomic Habits. I didn't read the whole thing, just one page. But on that page, I found something powerful. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. That line didn't just make sense. It hit me. I realized I didn't need to completely change my life overnight. I just needed better habits, better systems, a better rhythm. So I kept going. The next day, I read another page, then another. Eventually, I added something else, learning 5 English words each day. Just 5. I kept a small notebook and wrote them down. Some days I learned 10, some days only 3. But I kept showing up. Day by day, I began journaling too. At first, it was awkward. I didn't know what to write. I woke up early. I feel tired but proud. That's how it started. Then the words began to flow. My journal became a place where I met my real self. I wrote down fears, goals, questions, and little by little, the fog in my mind started to clear. One night, while scrolling through YouTube, I came across Simon Sinek's TED Talk. Start with why. He said, working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. I paused the video and just sat there, staring at the screen. I thought about my sister's question, the one she asked weeks before. Do you think I can study abroad one day? I remember the look in her eyes, half hope, half doubt, and I knew right then, my why was real. I wanted to be the kind of person who could help her believe in that dream. I wanted to be able to say, yes, you can, and mean it. That purpose lit a fire in me that coffee never could. With that fire, I started applying internships in areas I'd never considered. Marketing, teaching, writing, digital media. Most of them turned me down, politely, but a few said yes. And with each yes, something inside me grew stronger. Not pride, but belief. Here's what I learned. Transformation doesn't arrive with drum rolls. It sneaks in quietly, disguised as a new routine, a single page, 5 new words, a tiny act of courage. The days I didn't feel like showing up were often the most important, because every time I chose to keep going, I built a part of myself that was stronger than doubt. Looking back, I didn't become a new person overnight. I became better one tiny decision at a time. The kind of better that nobody notices at first. But eventually, those invisible steps add up to something real, something unshakable. So now, I'll ask you again, what is one small thing you can do today that your future self will thank you for? Maybe it's opening a book. Maybe it's writing down a dream. Maybe it's simply deciding that today you will begin. That first step won't feel magical. It may even feel awkward or boring. But that's okay, because real magic isn't loud. It grows in silence, in routine, in the inches you move forward when no one's watching. And if you keep going, you'll reach a point where something unexpected happens. One morning, you'll wake up, look around, and realize your life has quietly, beautifully changed. And maybe, just maybe, that next step is waiting for you right now. It happened on a quiet Thursday evening, one of those nights that feels ordinary, yet changes everything. I was in the kitchen making tea when my younger brother came in. He's 14, full of questions and quiet dreams he's still too shy to say out loud. He watched me for a moment, then asked a question that stopped me in my tracks. "Do you think I could go to university in the States someday?" He didn't ask it like he expected a real answer. It was soft, almost like he was testing the words out loud for the first time. But I heard something deeper behind his question, a small spark of fragile hope. I looked at him, and in that moment, I didn't just see a teenager with a question. I saw my younger self. I saw a version of me that once dreamed big, but didn't have someone to guide him. Someone to say, "Yes, it's possible, and here's how we make it real." That night, something changed inside me. I had been waking up early, reading, learning, trying to grow. But until then, I was doing just to fix myself, to feel a little better, to stop feeling like a failure. I had been focused on surviving, but now I saw more than just a dream. I saw a responsibility to become someone my brother could look up to, someone whose actions spoke louder than words, someone who didn't just say, "You can do it," but lived it out loud, someone who made the path a little clearer, a little less scary for him to follow. That night, I wrote a sentence in my journal. I want to become someone my brother can believe in. It became more than a goal. It became my why. Suddenly, my mornings had more meaning. The tiredness didn't feel as heavy. The setbacks didn't sting the same. Because now, I wasn't just showing up for myself. I was showing up for him, for that spark in his voice, for that question he dared to ask. And here's the truth. When your why is strong enough, it pulls you forward. Even on the days you want to quit. Even when no one else believes in you. Even when the progress feels invisible. Your why becomes your compass. It doesn't make everything easy, but it makes it worth it. So let me ask you this. Who's watching you quietly, hoping you'll rise? Who are you becoming? Not just for yourself, but for someone else. Because when your reason to grow becomes bigger than your excuses, that's when everything starts to shift. And maybe that shift is just beginning. They don't tell you this when you start trying to change your life. But growth is not a straight line. It's not a perfect staircase where every step feels like progress. Sometimes you slip. Sometimes you fall so hard it feels like you're right back where you started. About 3 months into my new routine, I hit a wall. At first, it was just one night. I told myself I deserved a break. One episode of The Office turned into 5. Then it was Stranger Things. Then some late-night gaming just to relax. I started sleeping in, skipping my journaling, ignoring texts from friends. I stopped applying for internships. I told myself I was resting. But deep down, I knew I was hiding. Days blurred together. I was up late, but not for anything meaningful. I was tired, but not from hard work. Just empty. It was like I had forgotten why I started. And then came the night that changed everything. It was nearly 1 a.m. I got up to grab a snack from the kitchen. I didn't expect to see anyone, but there he was, my dad. He had just come home from a 12-hour shift at the warehouse. His back was bent, his eyes red from exhaustion. And yet, there he was, kneeling on the floor, fixing a leaking tap. He didn't know I was watching. He wasn't doing it for praise or thanks. He was just doing what needed to be done, quietly, without complaint. I stood there in the hallway, frozen. No one said a word. But in that silence, I felt everything. That moment didn't make me feel ashamed. It made me feel awake. Something broke inside me, but in the best possible way. I realized how much love can live in quiet acts. My dad didn't need to lecture me about wasted time. His actions said everything. This is what it means to show up. This is what it means to be responsible for someone other than yourself. I went back to my room that night and didn't open Netflix. I opened my journal. Sometimes the most powerful turning points come not through words, but through witnessing silent strength, the kind that doesn't shout but speaks directly to your soul. And from that moment on, I knew something deep inside. Falling off track doesn't mean you fail forever. It just means it's time to begin again. Because the road is never easy, but that's what makes a journey meaningful. And so the question remains, are you ready to keep going, even when it gets hard? One afternoon, while watching a motivational video on YouTube, I came across a quote that stopped me cold. It said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." At first, I just nodded, thinking, well, that makes sense. But the more I thought about it, the more it unsettled me. Who were my 5? I sat down, took out a piece of paper, and wrote down the names of the people I spent most of my time with. There they were, my weekend crew. We had shared a lot of laughs, late nights, and stories. But when I looked closely, I saw something else too. We didn't build each other up. We escaped together. Our weekends were full of drinking, gossiping, and complaining about life while doing nothing to change it. We joked about people with big dreams, called them tryhards, and laughed at anything that looked like effort. Deep down, I knew why I stayed. It was comfortable. But I also knew that comfort was costing me my growth. Making a decision wasn't easy. I didn't write a long goodbye. I didn't make a scene. I just stopped showing up. I stopped replying to the group chats. I quietly chose to walk away. Not because I was better than them, but because I finally wanted better for myself. At first, it felt lonely. The silence was loud. But then something unexpected happened. One evening, while searching for free coding resources, I stumbled on a Reddit thread about online study communities. Curious, I clicked a link and joined a Discord server full of people around the world, students, professionals, dreamers, who were learning together. Some were from Canada, others from Australia, a few from the UK. They weren't just studying coding. They shared book recommendations, morning routines, productivity hacks, and life goals. They were strangers, but they spoke the same language of growth. That space became my new environment. Every day, someone would share a small win. Just finished a 30-day streak of learning Python. Or got up at 5 a.m. today and meditated for 10 minutes. At first, I didn't say much. I just watched. But their energy was contagious. Soon, I found myself sharing updates too. I felt encouraged, not judged. I felt inspired, not ridiculed. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like I belonged, not to a group that kept me in place, but to a tribe that pulled me forward. That's when I truly understood growth doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when you surround yourself with people who believe in progress. People who reflect who you want to become. So here's a question worth asking. Who are your 5? Are they building you up or holding you back? Because sometimes the most powerful move you can make isn't about trying harder. It's about choosing better company. And that one choice can quietly change everything.
It began the same way every morning did, too early, a little tired, but with something stirring inside me that didn't exist before. A quiet hunger to become better. Not perfect, just better than yesterday. One morning, I remembered a message someone in my online study group had shared. If you wouldn't say it to your best friend, don't say it to yourself. That hit me hard, because the truth was, I had spent years saying things to myself I would never say to anyone else. You're not good enough. You're just pretending. You'll probably fail. And honestly, those thoughts didn't come from nowhere. They were built up over time, from failures, rejections, people who underestimated me. But the worst part, I had started to believe them. So, I decided to do something small, maybe even strange. I stood in front of my mirror and said, I am learning. I am growing. I am enough. My voice cracked a little. I looked away before I could finish the third line. But the next day, I tried again. I am learning. I am growing. I am enough. I said it louder, clearer. Then I wrote those words on a sticky note and placed it on my mirror. I wrote the same line on a second one, stuck it to my laptop, another one on the bathroom wall. Soon, they were everywhere. My words, my truth, whether I fully believed it yet or not. Each day, those sticky notes stared back at me. At first, it felt silly, like I was pretending. But after a week, something started to shift. I was repeating these lines out loud, but they were also repeating quietly in my head, in moments when I needed them most. Like when I was nervous before an online interview. I am enough. Or when I missed a deadline. I'm still learning. Or when I felt stuck in comparison with others. I'm growing. These weren't magic words, but they gave me a foundation. A reminder that I didn't have to be perfect today. I just had to show up for myself again and again. That's when I realized we don't become who we want to be by accident. We become that person by showing up in small, intentional ways, especially when no one else is watching. Because when you're the one cheering yourself on, your growth becomes unstoppable. And the best part, these 3 simple lines became something more than words. They became my belief system. I am learning. I am growing. I am enough. Maybe it starts that way for you too, with just one voice in the mirror, one note on a wall, one moment where you choose to believe in yourself, even when it's hard. Because the voice you choose to listen to is the one that shapes who you become. So now I ask you, what words will you choose to repeat until they become true? The change didn't just come from what I was doing during the day, but what I began doing each night. When the world went quiet and I was finally left with my own thoughts. At first, I used to scroll endlessly through my phone before falling asleep, like watching random videos, checking messages I didn't really care about. But it always left me feeling restless, like something was missing. Then, during a video call with someone from my online study group in Canada, they mentioned their gratitude journal. 3 things every night. That's it. Simple, but powerful. So I decided to give it a try. That night, I took out a notebook I hadn't used in months. I opened to a blank page and wrote the date at the top. Then I sat there, pen in hand, unsure what to write. It felt weird. What was I really thankful for? But after a few minutes of just sitting in silence, 3 things came to mind. First, I thought about my dad's silent sacrifices. That day, I'd seen him come home after a long shift. His shirt stained with sweat, his shoes worn out. He didn't complain. He just walked in, smiled at me, and asked if I'd eaten. He always put us first, even when he had nothing left to give. Then I remember my brother's laughter. He is 14, always joking, always dancing around the house, even when things are stressful. That night, he tried doing a British accent to make me laugh, and it worked. That laugh reminded me that joy can still exist, even when life isn't perfect. Last but not least, that cup of tea with my gran sprang to my mind. She doesn't say much anymore, but when she poured me tea earlier that afternoon, she placed her hand on mine, smiled, and just said, "You're doing good." That simple moment meant more to me than 1,000 compliments. I looked at the list and felt something shift inside me. Not everything in my life was fixed. I wasn't there yet, not by a long shot. But in that moment, I realized I already had so much. So I did it again the next night, and the next. Some days it was hard. Some days I felt like everything had gone wrong. But even on those days, I forced myself to find something, even something small, like the smell of fresh coffee in the morning, a kind message from a friend, a new English word I finally understood. And slowly, this tiny nightly habit became the anchor to my day. It grounded me. It helped me stop chasing what I didn't have and start appreciating what was already in my hands. Because when you look for good things, you start to notice more of them. You start to focus less on your failures and more on your blessings. You stop seeing life as something missing and start seeing it as something meaningful. And now, I want to leave you with a question I ask myself every night. What 3 things made today worth living? Maybe they're big, maybe they're tiny, but they're always there if you look close enough. And once you start looking, you'll realize the good has been with you all along. I used to think stories like mine didn't matter, that unless you had something impressive to show, some big win, some shiny success, no one would care to listen. I believe that your story only counted if you made it big. If the world saw you, clapped for you, celebrated you. But that idea, it started to break the night I got a message from a kid I didn't even know. He was 17, from a small town in Ohio. He'd found one of my old posts in a study forum, where I had shared a short journal entry, just a few words about staying consistent even when I felt lost. He wrote, "Thank you. I was going to quit tonight, but then I saw your post, and I didn't." That message made me sit down, put my phone away, and just breathe, because for the first time, I truly felt it. Our stories don't need to be perfect to be powerful. Let me take you back a bit. There was a time I thought success belonged to other people with more confidence, more money, more chances. I thought maybe I had already missed my shot. But here's what life taught me, through quiet mornings, small wins, and hard lessons. Success isn't one big moment. It's a million tiny ones. It's getting out of bed when your heart feels heavy. It's applying to that internship, even when you think you're underqualified. It's choosing to journal instead of escape. It's whispering, "I am enough," when your mind tries to convince you otherwise. There wasn't a single day I woke up and magically made it, but there were many days I woke up and said, "Let's try again." And each of those days built something inside me. I think back to the late nights when I'd sit in the living room, laptop open, applying to places I never thought would even look at my name. Or mornings when I'd stare in the mirror and tell myself, over and over, "You are learning. You are growing. You are enough." At first, it felt ridiculous. Like, who was I trying to convince? But then, slowly, something shifted. The words stopped sounding like lies. They started to feel like truth. My truth. And you know what's wild? The people around me noticed too. My younger brother began studying harder, not because I told him to, but because he saw me doing it first. My dad started sharing more, just little stories from work, lessons about resilience. Even my grandma, who rarely talked tech, asked me to teach her how to use Zoom so she could join one of my English calls. That's the thing about growth. It ripples. When you show up for yourself, you're not just changing your life. You're lighting a path for someone else. So if you're sitting there, unsure where to begin, let me say this. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need a 5-year roadmap. You don't even need to be fearless. All you need is to believe that your next small step matters. Because one day, someone out there, maybe your sibling, your friend, a total stranger, might be on the edge of giving up. And they'll see you. Not your titles. Not your bank account. Not your resume. You. Your effort. Your truth. Your grit. And maybe they'll say, if they didn't give up, maybe I won't either. That's why your story matters. Even the messy parts. Even the silent battles. Even the days no one sees. Because real stories, the ones that touch hearts, the ones that change lives, they don't come from perfection. They come from persistence. And if you've read this far, I want you to know, maybe the best chapters of your story haven't even been written yet. And maybe, just maybe, the next page begins today. Let me leave you with this. You don't need to change your whole life in one day. That's not how real change works. You start small. 5 minutes. 1 word. 1 page of a book. 1 honest conversation. That's it. That's how it begins. I know it sounds simple, maybe even too simple. But the truth is, the most powerful things in life often start quietly. with a whisper, not a roar, with a decision, not a perfect plan. Maybe it's writing one sentence in your journal tonight. Maybe it's saying no to something that no longer feels right. Maybe it's messaging that one person who inspires you just to say thank you. Or maybe it's just choosing to believe for one day that you're not behind. You're not too late. And you're not alone. Because the perfect time, it's not next week. It's not after you finish that course or when you feel 100% confident. It's now, right here, right where you are, with whatever you have. And I'm not telling you this as someone who has it all figured out. I'm telling you this as someone who still stumbles, who still doubts, who still wakes up some mornings feeling unsure. But I also know this. Every time I chose to take one more step, no matter how small, it mattered. So now, let me pass the torch to you. You made it this far. You've listened. You felt something shift inside, even if it's just a little. And now, you get to decide what happens next. Are you going to be the person who only dreams, or the person who does? Because one of those people will look back in 5 years and smile. Not because it was easy, but because they were brave enough to start. So here's the challenge. Before today ends, do one small thing that honors the future you want. Just one. Let that be the beginning of everything. And as for what comes after, well, that's the beautiful part. That story's still yours to write. So here we are, the edge of this story. Or maybe the very beginning of yours. There's something I wish someone had told me earlier in life, and maybe no one has told you yet either. Success doesn't ask for perfection. It doesn't care how smart you are. It doesn't care how late you start. It only asks for one thing, that you don't quit. You don't need to run full speed every day. You just need to keep going, even when it's slow, especially when it's slow. You just need to believe that the effort you're making, no matter how small, is planting something real, something that will bloom in time. Because 1 year from now, on a quiet evening, you might be sitting somewhere that doesn't even exist in your life yet. Maybe it's in a cozy apartment, a coffee cup warming your hands. Maybe you're in a job that makes your heart beat with purpose. Maybe someone you love is sitting across from you, proud of the person you've become. And you'll smile, because the version of you in that moment, that future self, will remember this day, this tiny, quiet moment when you decided not to give up, and they'll whisper back across time, "Thank you for showing up. Thank you for trying. Thank you for not quitting when it was easier to walk away." So now, it's your turn to take the next step. And when you do, trust that something good is already waiting on the road ahead. This story isn't over. In fact, it's just getting started.